Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all the fellow students here. Welcome to the culmination of the monthly Grey Series talk here at UT Dallas. So every month, we've had the privilege of hosting a distinguished female leader in the realm of computer science, inviting them to share insights into their interests and experiences. Tonight, it is indeed an honor and with great pride that we welcome one of our own, Dr. Bhavani Thuraisingham, a highly respected figure in computer science and cybersecurity, hailing from our own alma mater, which is UT Dallas. So a huge round of applause for that. I'm Trishula. I'm doing my master's here at UT Dallas. I'm doing my master's in computer science, and I'll be your MC for today's talk. Before we welcome Dr. Bhavani to share her insights, let me take a moment and try to summarize her numerous remarkable achievements so far in her career. Dr. Bhavani Thuraisingham is the founder's chair professor of computer science and the founding executive director of the Cybersecurity Research and Education Institute at the University of Texas at Dallas. She was a visiting senior research fellow at King's College, University of London from 2015 to 2022, and an associate director of the US National UTC on Transportation System Security since 2023. She's an elected fellow of multiple organizations, including the ACM, IEEE, AAAS, National Academy of Inventors, and the British Computer Society. Dr. Thuraisingham has received several technical education and leadership awards, including the IEEE CS 1997 Edward J. McCluskey Technical Achievement Award, the 2023 IEEE CS Taylor L. Booth Education Award, ACM SIG SAC 2010 Outstanding Contributions Award, and the ACM CODASP 2017 Lasting Research Award. Her 43-plus year career includes industry, federal research laboratory, US government, and academia. She has delivered over 200 keynote featured addresses, over 100 panel presentations, including at the United Nations, White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, Fortune Media, Dell Technologies, Lloyds of London Insurance, and Professors Without Borders. She's written 16 books, published over 130 journal articles, and over 300 conference papers, and has 7 US patents. She has also written opinion columns on security for venues such as the New York Times, womensday.com, Inc. magazine, the Legal 500, and the Connected World. And to add on to this huge list of achievements, the latest one is that ACM has just published a book titled Rendering History, The Women of ACMW, where ACM has stated that Dr. Bhavani is one of the 30-plus women that has changed the face of worldwide computing forever. We thank you, Dr. Bhavani, for gracing this occasion with your benign presence, and I now invite you onto the stage to share your experiences.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavani. As now the most want to say also a few words. Students here.
You're gonna make me cry, yeah.
Also, classing my, she has an amazing, outstanding record. But considering that, especially, I would like you to understand and appreciate the effort she's making to be here tonight. She's been here since earlier today, this morning, and she's been through a lot of activities and meetings. Then she had to go back home, change, come here to give this talk. And from here, she's gonna go back home again to work, to grade exams. I wish this room was full with students because you don't get these opportunities at all, and to have someone with this prestige giving a talk here, and especially someone getting out of their way so much to be here and talk to our students. So please appreciate this effort on her part.
Thank you. Thank you, Ovidio. Thanks. Yeah. So just one correction. I think I was the executive director, right? Founding executive director 2004 to 2021. And now it's Dr. Kevin Hamler. So anyway, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And thanks for the Grace series to invite me. Can you all hear me? Yeah. So this is the 4th time I'm giving the Grace lecture. The first time was the inaugural lecture. There I talked about my career journey, right? From 1980 until 2015, the various stages of my career. Then during the pandemic in 2021, I talked about mentoring, right? So about diversity, equity, inclusion, and the importance of mentoring for career success. So the focus was on mentoring. And then I talked in about 2 years, a year and a half ago. That was about 15 reasons for doing a PhD in computer science. So today I've got an hour or just under an hour. So I'm going to talk about our technical work we are doing under Tracer. That is the US Department of Transportation. We are part of a national center for transportation system security. Clemson University is leading it. Overall, the $20 million program, we are sort of like 1/10 of it. And so we are part of that, part of that center. So that's about, 25. So I'm going to rush that, but I have a video presentation that you all can watch more details about the technical part. Then the last part, I give a motivational address. Okay, so today I wanted to focus on teamwork, just 2 or 3 slides on teamwork, but more important, I want to focus on playing the long game. That's sort of like the buzzword these days. Ovidio just mentioned that, and Priscilla, about my accomplishments. It did not come overnight. I started my career in 1980, and I've been around for 43 plus years. Okay, I was 25, so you can judge my age, figure out my age now. So it didn't happen overnight. One of the things I find, especially people in their 30s and 40s, they want to get everything right away. But that in the end, you flop. You've got to build little by little. So and you are being patient. So that's what I want to instill. I wrote a motivational article. So I write the article, then take parts of it, and then I give the presentation. So that's really also what I want to instill. Things don't come overnight. You've got to be patient, and especially people are living longer, and y'all are going to live even longer, right? The students here, 100, 110 by the time, y'all are going to live till probably 110. So, you are looking at at least a 60-year career. So you can't expect things overnight. So I wanted to stress that. So anyway, let me get to the technical part. So Trustworthy AI, and I gave this particular talk to the Artificial Intelligence Society, and that talk was given about 10 days ago, right? They had their own workshop. So I'll talk about our prior work that really got us the Transportation System Center, and that was on data privacy, malware analysis, adversarial machine learning. So I'm going to give you a snapshot of it, what we have done. And also with our former colleague, Alvaro Cardenas, I'm going to talk about attacks to transportation systems. So I went and presented this work at Clemson a couple of times in 2019. And that's when they asked us to be part of that. They were deciding between Texas A&M and UT Dallas, and they chose UT Dallas. Okay, so we are very, very grateful to them. But we had to work really hard to get this big contract. So I gave a webinar at the US DOT. And so that was a 1-hour webinar. So I'm only going to select parts of it, and that's mainly joint work with Latifa Khan, the first one. And the second part, fairness, is actually Latifa Khan's work with our own Dr. Feng Chen. Sorry, I should have put his name, but he's not part of the Tracer project. So, and Latifa is doing some extension to transportation systems. So I'll talk about both of them. And then the second part of the presentation, and I'll also talk about some of the things that I'm interested in integrating with resilient and time-critical systems. And then I'll get to the second part, okay? So if you can sort of give me a sign when we come to the halfway point so that I can get to the other one. So our prior research, so this was the work that we have been doing until around 2022, okay? So this was funded by NSF, Air Force, Army, and NASA, okay? So data privacy, stream-based machine learning, and handling adversarial attacks, and Internet of Transportation System security, okay? So again, when it comes to data privacy, what we did together with Elisa Bertino, Latifa, and Murat, my colleagues, we developed a privacy-aware, policy-based quantified self framework, because The sociologists and psychologists, they are very, very particular about gathering information about people, which is a very good thing, and giving us advice on having better health, right? So I don't think it's any secret that I love milk chocolate. I think the whole of computer science department knows. Now they even try to hide the chocolates. So wouldn't it be great if I open the refrigerator and then I get a message, right? Fortunately, I don't keep any chocolates or vanilla ice cream in my refrigerator, but it would be really great if a message, I get a message saying, "Oh, boys, you are not supposed to eat chocolates," right? But imagine the privacy considerations, right? So it'll be really, really bad if somebody, sends all that information to my insurance company and various other things. On top of that, if I'm smoking, which I don't, fortunately, I mean, insurance companies and my employers, they will be notified, and that's not good for me, right? Especially smoking, drinking, drugs, and so on. Yes, it's not good to do drugs, but we still need our privacy, right? So what did we do? So we had a project, and then we wrote this paper towards a privacy-aware quantified self, where what we are saying is data collection, data storage access, data analytics, data sharing, all of these activities, they are governed by policies. Okay, so health information, fitness data, location data, social media data, image, videos, every data collection. So for instance, when we collect data, right, we have to tell the people, why are we collecting the data? How long are we collecting the data? All of that has to be, we have to inform them and get their permission. So when we want to delete the data, is the data really deleted, right? It's not like going to in a bank and taking the jewelry. We remove the jewelry, then everything is gone. But data, we don't know. So we need auditing, accountability. So we designed and developed a privacy-aware quantified self manager. They could be running on mobile devices. And some of the data is encrypted in cloud storage and some anonymized, and with cloud-based services, we access the data. So this was really a very neat project. Okay, but only problem that I see for this work is that our policies were more or less like toy policies, TOY, because we are computer scientists, right? So we are not, sorry, my hands get dry. Okay, so we are computer scientists, and so we are not really working on real world policies. But then we started collaborating with Dr. Jennifer Holmes. She's the dean of our policy school. And so I have a better understanding about policies these days. And then I also, during the pandemic, I got a certificate on public policy analysis from the London School of Economics. So I have a better understanding, but still, I'm not really a policy person. So that's something that in the future, if we have to redo this, we need to work with real world policies. Okay. So this is really my joint work with Latifa Khan. He's a main principal investigator. We got substantial funding from NASA, and then we also got funding from NSA and various organizations to do this work. Oh, and Air Force, of course. So you can ask the question, right? Data stream classification, lots of data arriving, right? So very large amounts of data. Now we have to build models, train the model, right? And then we test, training and testing. So you could ask the question, what's the big deal? This is something we've been doing since 1995 or even before. But okay, so we use past data to build classification model, predict the label of future instances, and helps the decision making. But the question here you can ask is, okay, you can tell me, so what's the big deal? It's been around for a long time. But the problem now is that we've got this big data, massive amounts of data, streaming data arriving, right? But today it's going to be by Google stock. Yesterday it would have been by Microsoft, and tomorrow by Amazon. These concepts are changing. And so the question is, how do we build models? Models have to be continuously updated. Okay, one size, those days we were struggling. When I was at NSF, 2001 to 2004, people were talking about real-time machine learning, but we really didn't get far. But now we have made so much improvements, and Latifa Khan has contributed quite a bit to that. And so lots of this, and he has really established a big name. So my contribution was somewhat limited in the sense that I contributed and worked on some papers, but then I moved on to some other stuff. But he's still an authority in this field. So lots of data coming, continuous flow of data is very common in our digital world, and the concepts are changing, right? So how do we accommodate that? So we build not just one model, an ensemble of models, collection of models, finite number of models. So we have n models. That means the models that are old, we have to throw them away. So we build, again, an ensemble of models. The models have to talk to each other, and then they have to decide who is coming up with wrong predictions most often. And so those models we are throwing away. So that's the model updates, and then new models are coming in. Okay, so we applied this to, I haven't shown, number of problems. So first problem we applied this, and I was involved in that. Two problems I was involved, but Latifah is still continuing to work on that. One was NASA reports, fault reports, right? So how do you develop, how do you detect all these faults? And these faults are continuously changing. And another problem that we applied this also for malware analysis, because malware is changing patterns. Okay, so how do you detect the malware changing patterns? So we use machine learning to figure out how malware is changing, so that then we can develop these solutions to handle the changing malware. The third area that we applied was insider threat detection, like bad people pretending to be good people and causing a lot of harm, right? So we applied to various applications, 3 applications, and I think Latifah is still working on website fingerprinting and a number of other applications that I'm not involved. Okay, so but this was really some very good piece of work. Another one is with Dr. Murad Kantajulu, is adversarial machine learning. So I actually started this problem. So I said, nobody was thinking about it at the time. We're talking about 2009, 2010. So I told Murad, what about these machine learning techniques being attacked, right? We are talking about, all these cyber attacks, but the machine learning could be attacked too. Today, it has become one of the most important problems in cybersecurity, adversarial machine learning. And Feng, you have done some work too in this, right? Yeah. So, and Latifah has also done some work, but my collaboration on this was with Murad. So if you can see, we have to understand the adversary, right? So it's not concept drift or online learning. Adversary is trying to figure out what we are doing, but we have to be several steps ahead of the adversary. We try to figure out what the adversary is doing. And so it sort of becomes game playing between us and the adversary. Okay, so there's a lot of mathematics involved in coming up with a solution. And fortunately, we have some professors and students, postdocs. Feng Chen, for instance, is excellent in mathematics. And then we also had, Dr. Murat has a postdoc, Yan Zhao. She's a brilliant mathematician. So she worked on a lot of these mathematics. And so what we do is the following. So this is sort of the support. This is for adversarial support vector machine. We did it for 2, adversarial support vector machine, adversarial decision trees. So this is a support vector machine boundary line. We have the red squares, bad instances, blue circles are good instances. So what do we do? What the adversary is trying to do is trying to push the red squares below the boundary line. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instances are now considered to be bad instances. Okay. So then what we have to do is try to figure out what the adversary knows and then try to shift the boundary line. And that's what we do here. So we have reversed it. The red crosses, the opposite. Red crosses are bad. The green circles are good instances. So how does the adversary attack? They modify x to x prime. They add some dummy bytes and so various things, during test time or during training time or corrupting the data. So black dashed lines is a standard support vector machine classification boundary. And the blue line is what we are trying to do. Look, so here is better explained. Red crosses are bad and the green circles are good instances. And the parts in the black, right, they are trying to push it. The bad guys are trying to push it above this dotted line. So what we have to do is to try and figure out where to move this dotted line so that we catch as many bad instances as possible. And that's what we are trying to do here. Now, this blue line did not magically appear. With a lot of calculations, we said this was the place, because you can actually move this blue line right here. Then all the good instances will come out as bad instances. Okay, so I believe that this was sort of one of the early pieces of work, which was like 10 years ago, on adversarial machine learning, when no one else was, this army was funding the work. No one else was doing this work at the time. But now this has become like one of the hottest topics in cybersecurity. Okay, so then we started working with Alvaro Cardenas. There was one student that we are joint student, and we are really fortunate that I did this project, because this is what I went and presented. 2 presentations I gave. One was on the work with Alvaro, and the other one was on the work with Latifa and Murat to Clemson. And both presentations were given in 2019, just before the pandemic. Okay, so you can see Internet of Things, right? That's now it's not a buzzword. It's very real now. And so, like our cell phones connected to the television, connected to our coffee maker, tea maker, clocks, and so on. But that's Internet of Things. There's also Internet of Medical Things, right? Now, Internet of Transportation. So the cars are connected to the trucks and connected to the trains, and also connected to the road work. So they're all talking to each other. Imagine there are going to be a lot of attacks here. Okay, so the detailed design. So what did we do? So this was, I wanted to sort of apply machine learning in here. So later on, we did some machine learning, and currently we are focusing on machine learning. But Alvaro said we applied some machine learning. The results were not. That was my contribution. The results weren't very good. So we also did some, Alvaro's work was to use extended Kalman filter. So see, one of the challenges for us, computer science, is coming up with this model. So we really need to work with control engineers and civil engineers to develop this model. So first thing is offline pre-processing. The AVs invariants are calculated using well-known nonlinear model. And then we worked on XYZ axis, accelerometer, gyroscope, and the magnetometer. And then Alvaro came up with this model of the transportation system. Okay, it could be a ground system. We did ground and we did aerial vehicles. Coming up with a model, and then we had online stage, extended Kalman filter was used. And that's where I think we need to focus on machine learning, which we are doing right now. To predict the AV's physical behavior, estimating unknown parameters. And then the algorithm is 2 sections. One is predicting and then correcting the estimation before we compare it to the sensor data. So for anomaly detection, there's a statistical algorithm called QUSUM. So we use that to detect persistent attacks. And then it raises an alarm if there is, if the value, the residual difference is larger than a specified amount, predefined threshold. Okay. So what was interesting about this is that this was sort of the very early work on applying, not the first work, but one of the early pieces of work, applying transportation, Internet of Transportation, looking at attacks for Internet of Transportation. Okay, so if you can remember when Alvaro was here, we had his students were, focusing on aerial drones and then the cars. So we did some experiments. And then for the aerial, we used PX4 flight controller and then focused on detecting, okay, we looked at what are the attacks for different systems. So for aerial vehicles, we found that the global positioning system, GPS spoofing, and the gyroscope attacks were, very more common. And so we looked at GPS attacks, and we detected 0.2 seconds, while gyroscope attacks after 1.5 seconds, and the overhead was about 5.4%. Then we also looked at cars, right? So it was the custom built on top of Ford Fiesta. And then the controller was ROS Kinetic, and we focused on detecting the visual attacks. So we looked at what is common for aerial and what is common for cars. We didn't look at sea vehicles. Okay. So the controller, okay, so we focused on detecting visual attacks after 0.1 second, and the overhead we found was less. And the accuracy, the probability of false alarm was about 2%. Okay. So what we are doing now for the Tracer project is doing similar things, but with machine learning algorithms. Okay. Because that's what the sponsor really wants us to look at that. And so we are still collaborating. I invited Alvaro to be part of our project, the Clemson project. And so we are doing some, continuing to do some joint work with Alvaro. Okay, so that is our work that we did prior to 2022. And after presenting the work, and we also had some video calls, we worked on a proposal, not Tracer, we worked on a proposal to NSF, bringing in security, privacy, resiliency, fairness, and so on. But unfortunately, we got the eager grant for that, but we didn't continue with this work. I mean, we didn't get the large grant. And so then they invited us to participate in this proposal. So all of 2022, we were writing, the proposal. So what are we doing here? Attacks on smart cars. We are also working on data privacy and publishing synthetic data. So data privacy is Murat's work. And also Kangkung G has been involved with an NSF project. Attacks on smart cars is something that Alvaro is working with myself and Latifa. And then adversarial attacks, adversarial machine learning and privacy, and fairness. Latifa is the point of contact for fairness, and he's a separate project with Feng. So the fairness project, they're very interested because we don't want the police to just catch people from a particular gender or a particular, ethnic group, right? And so we want fairness in this process. So that's what he's applying. Some of the fundamental work that he has done with Feng, he's applying that to transportation systems. And then the question is, how do you integrate? It becomes I'm still struggling with one thing, right? Adversarial attacks. What about fairness? What about privacy? For privacy, we are applying a privacy metric. For fairness, we are applying fairness metric. For adversarial attacks, there's kind of a security metric. So security, privacy, fairness, bringing all three together, I think it's going to be a monumental task. But you can see there's lots of opportunities for research. Okay, so now the Tracer research, handling attacks on smart cars. What Latifa has done here is applying federated learning. Before that, for smart cars, we know that cars are becoming connected, right? So they are smarter and susceptible to attack. The smarter they are, the more attacks. So we have to develop a robust, intelligent intrusion detection system. As a central communication system in a smart car, detecting any potential attacks is a CAN bus, and that is very important. Okay, so that's the direction of this research. And then the standard CAN frames, right, in vehicles like encryption, authentication, and so on. So making them vulnerable to various attacks. So the attackers can exploit these vulnerabilities. So this is really the sort of the CAN ID and the payload, sort of the structure of these CAN bus. Okay, but what is us? There's a lot of work in this paper, but I want to talk about the gist of it. The thing is, he's applying a federated solution. What does that mean? These manufacturers, they have all the attack data, but they don't want to publish all their data, although they should, right? They don't want to publish. So what are they doing? Okay, so in reality, car manufacturers, they collect their own data. The data often includes sensitive information, CAN IDs, and so on. Consequently, a centralized model, right, a single local data set, it can miss some very valuable training data. So we are taking a federated learning approach, right? It's a pity because I just finished editing a book on federated learning for Springer, and Latifa had already published his paper at that time in a Federated Learning Foundations conference. And so, we couldn't publish his paper in the book. But in any case, federated learning provides a solution. Multiple client devices, they have their own data, and they are not publishing the data. Instead, each company is publishing its model. And from these models, can we develop some sort of a global, aggregate all these models and perform come up with a global model. So that's the, yeah, okay, almost. Yeah, okay, so so we adopt a cross-silo federated learning setting where we have a limited number of clients. So each manufacturer has its own model. Okay, now continuing, the system is fast SV. So solution is based on augmented sharing. So what we have is we have number of clients. They are publishing all the synthetic data. So synthetic data, we don't want to show the real data. So it's synthetic data. And then we are transferring the synthetic data to the central server. And here we have the class balance synthetic data. From all of the synthetic data, we want to build a model. So the whole idea is not to divulge the private data. So this is the work, and it's the second paper that he published in the same conference. So I'm sort of peripherally involved, but not deeply involved, but I'm planning to get more involved in this. Okay. So then this is really my pet project. Remember I showed you a picture earlier? Privacy aware, policy based, about our health. What we are doing, almost done for this part, right? What we are doing here is that instead of healthcare data, social media data, and so on, we've got the radar, GPS, cameras, LIDAR, ultrasonic sensors going into the car. And so the car has some kind of a gadget. So we have data collection, data storage, data analytics, data share. Okay, so we have encrypted backend data, so cloud storage. So the car is collecting all this data, doing the analytics and trying and figuring out. But we want policies to govern. And University of Alabama, which is also a partner, and Latife is a little bit involved here, where they are working on cybersecurity risk, governance, and policy for transportation systems. Okay, so this is something that I'm really very interested in pursuing. And so what we do is we write small research proposals under this big project, and then we get the funding to do this kind of research. Now, this is Feng Chen's expertise that Latife is working with Feng. I wrote one paper with Feng. Again, fairness example for transportation. What do we mean by that, right? Autonomous vehicles, we need to perform various automated functions. AV trying to classify whether the object is a pedestrian or not. And then we also want to make sure object classification needs to be accurate regardless of race, gender, age of the individual. Okay, so previous studies have found, actually these studies, it'll be shocking to see who police they are stopping to catch, right? It seems very biased from the data. So important to build system that counter these issues. So essentially, Feng, we are taking some of the results that you work with Latife and applying to transportation system. So predicting pedestrians correlated to race and gender. That's what we have found. So what do we do? Sensitive feature, race, gender, age. Okay, so I don't know with age, old age or young age, I don't know. So I sort of cover all three. That's why I get stopped for driving too slowly. Okay, so one time the policeman, Campbell Road, I'm driving at 20 miles when I should be at, when it's a 40 mile limit. And so for 20 miles, he stopped me and gave me a ticket, driving too slowly, endangering traffic. And then I'm supposed to apparently move to the side, which I didn't. I just stopped there. And so he gave me 3 tickets. And then, I don't know, I'm telling you, it was 10 years ago, I was put on probation for 3 months, okay, for driving too slowly. So I don't know. I mean, is it a bad thing driving too slowly? I mean, I don't think so. But then still, so did it matter because of, although I was 58, I was 58 plus, almost 59. So I don't think age would have come 10 years ago. Age would have been as much of a problem. But maybe race, gender, who knows why he stopped me, okay? So, because I can understand if it stops me, if it's fast. For the 3 months, I had to come take a limousine to come to work almost every day. You know, if my husband is here, he would drop me. But when he's in Boston, I would have to, because my husband didn't want me to drive when I was on probation for 3 months. Because if I, yeah. No, yes. Now, yes, yeah, it costs so much money, but because if I get a moving violation while on probation, then license will be revoked for 6 months. So fortunately, I passed. I didn't. So anyways, 10 years ago, everything is erased. So that's why I don't care if anyone. So prediction, pedestrian or not, right? So we don't want a fair prediction model. The dependency effect of sensitive features to predicted outcome is eliminated. So we have to eliminate that. And you all have come up with some nice algorithms, you and Latifa. And so I'm trying to study your algorithms, what you all have developed, to apply it here. Okay, and what changes we need to make. Now, one last thing, this is something I've been trying to, I worked quite a bit when I was at MITRE Corporation on real-time systems. Because for Boeing, with Boeing, I don't even know what to say Boeing right now, because with all the bad press they are getting, they build, can you imagine, they build the AWACS system, airborne warning and control system, that's going and getting all the information. Those days we had 707, but now it's 767s, I think they're using. So resilient systems have to continue operating in the midst of attacks. Real-time system to meet timing constraints. So I wrote quite a few papers with some professors when I was at MITRE and even later here with UC Irvine. So transportation have to handle resilience and timeliness. Security and timeliness, they are clashing. Okay, so that's where we have to come up with a quality of service. Sometimes we need real-time, sometimes security. How do we balance the two? So I developed some algorithms earlier with a student and also with the UC Irvine. And so we want to see which techniques work here. So data integrity is also important, data provenance, quality, and accuracy. The challenge is how do we integrate transportation systems that have to be resilient, act in real time, be secure, fair, integrity, I don't know. It's kind of mind-boggling research. But we have to start somewhere. Can we develop an AI security governance framework for transportation systems? So this finishes, so this is a summary, right? So I just want to talk about what I said, and then acknowledgements to so many people. Okay, so part 2. Okay, so this is part 1. I want to finish part 2 and then we can have questions, okay? So now comes the motivational part. Okay, so I wanted to start with technical so that you all get motivated to do this this whole area that I talked about is called Trustworthy AI, right? We started with trustworthy data science, trustworthy machine learning, but now, of course, trustworthy AI, which also another part that's important is generative AI, right? Applying generative AI to give us solutions for trustworthy, give us solutions, and this generative AI systems, large language models, what if they are attacked, right? So that's the sort of research that part of the research, and Latifa is really, focusing in that area. Okay, so now we come to the motivation. So we have to change our way of thinking. So one of the things I've said, especially I find in academia, see, I came to academia 24 years into my career. 1980, I started, I was a visiting faculty. I'll give some examples, right? Playing the long game. So when I came to academia, I don't know whether it was a good thing or not. I brought an industry and especially Federal Research Lab mindset. It worked really well, but in some cases it has not worked because not everyone in my team is a team player, because they have an academic mindset which is very different, which is individualism. Okay, so I should have tried to understand the academic environment a little better, but then you can't change what you are. Okay, so teamwork, how to work in a team and still show individual excellence. Okay, this is something for industry, especially many of y'all are going to work in industry. I'm not saying that it's not okay for academia, but it's more for industry. And I would say teamwork, I still believe that teamwork will help you in your career, but also in relationships, right? You can't be like a grab person. You have to give and take in life. Why are relationships important, especially marriage? Because I think if you have a bad marriage, it's very hard to thrive in your workplace. And if you're really miserable at work, it's very difficult to come back home and be put on a smiley face, right? So you have to sort of balance. You need a good home life and a good work life, right? So then the second part is what I'm really focusing, playing the long game for career success, as well as personal relationships. I'm going to divulge some stories, and that's what I said. My husband shouldn't know that I'm talking about one particular thing, okay? So anyway, so what I find, as I said, most people 30s and 40s, they think of immediate rewards. And I was one of them too when I was in my 30s. So 20s is different because you're really struggling to get on with your career and everything. But once you get to your 30s, you are still young, you want to become famous, and still 40s, then you sort of quieten down when you're 50s. But these people who want to really do well, really push themselves and grab from other people, they will flop in the end. So do not think of immediate rewards. That doesn't mean you want to be a saint, right? Have small near-term rewards and then win the big prize. So those two things are really important in one's career. Okay, so teamwork, I mean, a lot of things I'm telling are obvious, but the reason I'm saying them is because that's going to really, if someone had told me a lot of these things, then I may not have made these mistakes that I made. But sometimes you have to make mistakes to learn from them, right? So why is it so important? Again, things that you all know, but it's always important to remember and reread them. So teamwork complements each member's strengths and weaknesses, right? Areas that you are weak, somebody else is strong. If your communication is not as good, some other member will be very good in the communication. So when you work in teams, then you sort of complement each other. And I have found working in teams with companies, when I was at Honeywell, especially Honeywell, and at MITRE, it's at MITRE I really learned teamwork. In the beginning, I was also a little bit, when I joined MITRE, I was like 33 years old. I wanted to be an individually, good. But then I really learned to be a team player. Okay, so teamwork complements, builds confidence and trust. It enhances technical skills, right? So we can learn from others and improve soft skills like communication. So you don't want to say, oh, I'm not good at communication, somebody else is, better, so I'll keep quiet. No, you can learn. Y'all would not believe, when I was 22 years old, right, when I started my PhD, I was at 21, my PhD advisor had told one of my colleagues in Japan, she talks very little and she eats very little. And now I talk a lot, difficult to stop me from talking, and I eat a lot, but now I'm managed a little better now. So, but with practice it comes. And how did I get it? Okay, I think I started thriving my latter part of Honeywell, especially at MITRE Corporation, the ability to communicate. So I learned it working as a team. First, I was really quiet. So, and communication is so important, very, very important. With the team, while the team thrives, the individuals also thrive because we want to improve the company's reputation and the position in the industry, right? Obstacles include, we have problems where team leader will take all the credit. We have problem that team members are jealous or envious of others and they have a grab mentality. Okay, so I won't mention names. I know one person in the team was so jealous of another person that this person, he or she, didn't want the other person to get multiple awards or careers and so on, because didn't want someone else to have what he or she did not have. That sort of mentality. Okay, not that, I mean, it's bad, but you have to improve. But if you continue to be jealous, it will sort of eat in you. Okay, so it's not good. So obstacles include team leader grabbing or team members being jealous. So this is where I think the team breaks up. So end result, poor morale, and end up in a lose-lose situation. So what do? We have to solve a problem. I'm stating the obvious. So that's the challenge. How do we solve the problem as soon as it is detected? We cannot let it fester. And this is a challenge. I mean, one size does not fit all. You've got to see what the team is, what is the leader doing. If the member is jealous, you've got to try and talk to the leader what to do. If the leader is a selfish person, then you've got to talk to the members, but you have to be careful because they will go and sneak to the leader and then he might fire you, he or she. So something to be aware of, okay? And teamwork is especially important in companies, but I also say academic environment benefits from teamwork. Okay, so in a way, some things I think looking back would I have done it better. Yes, I would have changed, but not much. So again, how do you display individual excellence? How can you, because you don't want to say that, Dr. Bhavani is all for herself, but still you can't be, hiding behind somebody's, coattails or skirt or whatever, okay? So this is not easy, right? If you excel too much, team members get uncomfortable. When you give presentations, mention the contribution of everyone. This is excess work, like I said, right? Latifa's work, Murad's work, Alvaro's work, my contribution. So you have to give credit. Do not take credit for work that is not yours. While writing joint papers, continue to write. But at the same time, I was talking to just now Feng, because today we were in a meeting and I said I have over 100 papers as a single author. So Feng said that, he wants to start writing too. I said, remember, you are in academia. So if you have multiple authors, it's not a big deal. You're supposed to write papers with students. But when you are in a company, right, you write joint papers with the members, but you also have to, I also wrote my own papers. Okay, some people got jealous, I'll tell you later. So when I was at MITRE, I was a department head, okay, at the federal lab or executive director, UT Dallas cybersecurity. I used to write books for managers, right? So my 16 books, about 10 of them are for technical managers, about 6 are highly researched with the students. Okay, so you have to have that combination, but still write your own papers when you are in companies, research organizations. Not a single collab. Okay, so one thing is, not a single collaborator has accused me of presenting their ideas without giving credit. So you have to give credit where it's due. But I also present my own ideas. Okay, so you've got to work in a team, but also be aware, right? So end result, I became known as an expert with many accolades and yet highly valued as a team member. Okay, so never be self-centered and grab what does not belong to you. So you've got to be careful, because in the end, you are going to lose, because you are going to lose goodwill. Okay, so you've got to be very conscious. Once trust is lost, it's impossible to rebuild. So these are the 2 slides I have on teamwork. But now comes the long game, playing the long game and winning. So what is the long game? I've read several articles. So Alison McWilliams, she is, I think, a professor of practice at UNC, University of North Carolina, some UNC school, maybe in Wilmington. She published in Psychology Today. It's a very, very popular magazine, which I read off and on. So it's the obvious, focus on things that matter, not to expect immediate rewards, taking small steps and achieving something big at the end. Okay, so don't go after the shiny new object, go after something that is really solid and long lasting. So you can't, when you are, when you're 40 years old, you can't say, oh, I want this award and that award and this thing and that thing. Just try to go for some small things. Okay, if you can get a really prestigious thing at that age, great, but you have a lot of time in front of you, right? People don't like when you are obsessed about something. Okay, it has to sort of come to you, but you also have to work some behind the scenes. You have to sort of gauge the situation. I was told that, like some people, all they want is, oh, where is so-and-so? I need to go and talk to so-and-so because I want to get the letter for IEEE fellow or ACM fellow. Didn't even ask the person, how are you? How are you doing? First thing he sees when he or she sees this person, let's say John sees Mary. Hello, Mary, how are you? No. Where is Peter? I need to go and talk to Peter because I need to get a letter of reference for my IEEE fellow or my ACM fellow. I mean, Mary, again, these are hypothetical names. Mary was saying, what sort of man or woman is John? So obsessed about, no question about, can you please, how are you? How are you doing? I haven't seen you in a long time, nothing. Where is Peter? I want to get a letter from Peter. That's, again, okay. Another interesting article by Stell FD, she published in Forbes, playing the long game can be to one's competitive advantage, emphasizes not to look for short-term gains, focus on long-term gains that really matter. The article also states that playing the long game is important for work as well as one's personal life. And then I gathered this and I published an article earlier this year, how I played the long game and achieved my goals. Okay, so I'm giving some examples. I gave, I think, 6 examples. I'm only going to give you 3. Example 1. okay, playing the long game and winning. This is my personal stories are coming out. So we are now in 1975, right? I was finishing my undergraduate degree in math and physics. I wanted to go to the UK or the US for grad school. I was 20 years old and a woman. It was not considered proper because that was in 1975 for an unmarried woman to go to UK or US and do the graduate work. So my father had passed away 4 years prior when I was 16. So then the maternal uncles usually, help my mother. And so 2 of my uncles arranged my marriage. My husband, who is 8 years older, was finishing his PhD in physics at University of Cambridge. So I was very happy when I got this proposal. I jumped at it. I was going to do my grad school too, but my graduate work. So we got married. But marriage was not easy, right? We are 20 and 28. We were both different, very different people. My husband went to boarding school in England, and then he got his entire university education there. So it was like we are from different cultures. So what do I do? So also I had no experience with men, never had a boyfriend. Okay, so here I am, thrust in a marriage, not thrust, I wanted to marry, okay? So, and my husband, oh gosh, what really drove me nuts is that he was extremely organized. Okay, he will look at like any dirt here, or my tea, spilling tea and this, and he get very upset. Even yesterday he came and said to me, oh, you are doing something. Oh, why can't you put these boxes in this for what's that, recycling? Why are you mixing the two? Even yesterday, after 49 years of marriage, he was coming and complaining. Okay, I just completely ignored. But when you are young and 20 getting married, it just becomes very, and then we also had to follow a strict routine. 10 o'clock lights off. So if I had to study after that, I couldn't. 6 o'clock, wake up. Okay, so I can study from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So it was also different. So my mother said, oh, why do you want to stay with this guy? He's driving you nuts. Just come with me. Let's go to the US. I said, no, mother, if I want to divorce this man, will you find a husband for me? Because, as a divorced woman, it's very hard to get married, right? She said, sorry, I can't. So I said, just keep quiet, I'll handle it. So I said, so my thinking was, so I did not want to argue, because if I start arguing with him, then I wouldn't accomplish what I wanted. So I said, let me play that. We didn't think about long game then. So let me be patient. Let me get a high paying job. Then I can make the demands, because then if he says, right, no or something, then I can walk out anytime. Okay, so my thinking was, okay, so that high paying job only came in 1983. And I'll tell you all why. So then I put forward my rules. Okay, then he agreed to almost everything I wanted. Okay, so I have to do this, I have to do that. Don't stop me from, I cannot come to bed at 10. Some days I might have to work till 12, midnight. Okay, so he agreed to most. So, but there's compromise. I can't be selfish, okay? There's compromise. So had I started arguing with him in the mid to late 1970s, I couldn't have done my studying. I could never have finished my PhD. I waited patiently and then talked to him when I was in a position of power. You might think I'm a scheming woman. I'm not. Okay, so now I have, touch wood, I've got a strong marriage and a good career. That's example one. So I played the long game, waited for 8 years, patiently, so because I knew the time will come where I'll be in a position of power. Okay. So now example 2. So we are now in fall of 1980, coming to the US. I was 25 years old. My husband got a job at, this is not personal, okay, New Mexico Tech as a petroleum recovery research center. It's a DOE center. And so I went for an interview. Then and there, they offered me an assistant professor at New Mexico Tech. It's a reasonably good school. So my son was a baby, 8 months old or whatever. And so I thought, it's going to be difficult. I'm in a new country, new state. You should say New Mexico, right? It's like, I come originally, I'm a Tamil from Sri Lanka. New Mexico reminded me just as advanced or backward, whatever you want to, that particular city, Socorro, just like Jaffna, Sri Lanka, where I came from, right? So here I'm in a new place, new country, very big. So then I didn't want to, work for 10 years. So I declined the job offer, assistant professor, without tenure, of course. So I took the position as visiting faculty, right? So my dream was to be a tenured professor, but I knew that by giving up this opportunity, I may never achieve my dream. However, I felt that I would never be able to cope being a mother and working on my tenure. Okay, these days, for many of y'all, right, y'all have more privilege because there's so many facilities, in 2023, even 2010, daycare and everything. 1980, it was very different. Okay, so to some extent, I'm reasonably organized, but I cannot juggle. Some people are super women, they can do many things. So, but I focus on what I do. So I worked as a visiting faculty for 3 years. Socorro, New Mexico Tech and University of Minnesota, where Bailey did a PhD there. And then I joined the commercial industry, first as a senior developer. So I was doing a lot of programming, worked on the first CDC net, network for control data. You all wouldn't have heard of control data. Number 3 computer company in the United States, or maybe in the world. IBM, DEC, and then control data. So then I wanted to do research. So I talked about it in my earlier talks. So I joined in Honeywell. I had to have, it was being at the right place at the right time. So I won't go into the details. I mean, when I gave the first Grace lecture, I talked about it, how I got my job at Honeywell. Very fortunate. That's when I got into cybersecurity, 1985 fall. Then from Minneapolis, so we moved to Minneapolis. My husband got a very good position at 3M. And then we moved to Boston because my husband got a position at MIT. So I joined Mitacorp Federal Lab. And I took these jobs as I did not have much choice, but I really took a lot of pride. So I have a good knack for getting into something and developing a passion, a love for it. Even if I don't like it, I can develop a sort of a passion for it because, again, you don't have a choice, right? So what's the point in doing something and be miserable? So I said, let me see what I can do. And then I develop a liking. So then, I take a lot of pride. From MIT, I was on leave, program director, then academia approach. So I had 3 other places I could have gone to, but I chose University of Texas, UT Dallas. All the universities, other 2 universities about the same level as UT Dallas, or maybe slightly, one teeny weeny bit better, one teeny weeny bit worse. But I chose because my husband also had restrictions. Good hospitals were very important because we were getting older, right? I was 49, my husband was 57. So good hospital, because my son had, finished college by then. So good hospital, good airport, so we can go back and forth to Boston. And the third thing was, I can't remember. So, and then we found Dallas was convenient. My son was spending time between New York and London, and my husband in Boston. So it was very convenient for us. So 1980s when I gave up the tenure track assistant professor position. 2004, 24 years later. All the while I was publishing. That's why I wrote all those papers, single author papers, Sven. So I wrote all those papers. I had 60 journal papers, at least 30 of them single author, I think, and the others the remaining with others. So then 24 years later, my dream was realized. But I didn't just sit back and do nothing. I kept writing papers. A young professor at University of Minnesota, White Sai, right? Wrote papers with him. And so that's how, I continue to write papers. And that's how I got the tenure job. Okay, third, the last example. So let's go to the early to mid 1990s. So here I'm now in my mid to late 30s. Okay, so I was really thriving and enjoying what I was doing. And sometimes, remember, in the industry, in the federal lab, it becomes a problem. Some people get jealous, right? So unfortunately, there was this one person extremely envious and tried to throw every obstacle. Same level as me. This person was in Washington. I was in Boston. We were in one company, MITRE. So my husband so when I get dejected, my husband will tell me, only your enemies will benefit from your downfall. So he knows exactly what to say to me immediately. Oh, I'm not going to let that man or woman affect me, so I will get doubly motivated. That's how I do things. So they tried to stop my publications, but I still continue to publish. Fortunately, I had a very good manager. This is what I was focusing on my second Grace lecture. So they said vicious things about me to sabotage my career, but I had strong supporters. I had Maria Zemankova, that you all know, NSF, she was an NSF program director. She had joined MITRE and she really liked the work I did for her. And then she talked to my boss, Henry Bayard, said, you must support Bhavani. I had a great mentor, Farooq Bastani's PhD advisor, Professor Ramamurthy from UC Berkeley. So I put together a team and then I worked, and my detractors failed in thwarting me. In fact, one of them, and my husband says I shouldn't be saying these bad things, okay? I would say the worst person, I think this person has failed in life. But my husband says, no, that's my opinion, that I'm kind of prejudiced. So I shouldn't have said that, okay? But it's unfortunate what happened to this person. Anyway, so today, again, as I said, you know, prestigious awards and so on, but I was patient. I didn't fight. I didn't get into an argument with these people. Behind the scenes, I gathered support. All my sponsors in Washington, NSA, I think I forward to Ovidu that letter. Head of research at cybersecurity research at NSA wrote this letter for me. And Army, Navy, Air Force all wrote letters, and they were wondering, why are they writing all these letters for Bhavani? So anyway, so all that helped me, right? So again, I was patient, did not fight with them, and I felt that I won. Okay, advice to next generation, very briefly, never to act on impulse, do not lose your temper, never lose temper at work. Sometimes I do, but we shouldn't. Okay, if I take on something by choice or otherwise, you have to develop a passion for what you do. Sometimes whether you like it or we are being in academia, we can do things what we want. But when you're not in academia, there may things that you may not want, but you have to develop a passion. Okay, always believe in taking small steps, and then, you know, everything sort of, sometimes you can get to a dead end, then you need course correction. I cannot say what to do at that time. Every situation is different. So this is what I tell the younger person. You cannot have everything you want immediately. Okay, so you all can get frustrated, but you know, you have a long life. Okay, a lot of things that you can do. That's the important. I also stress, I don't know why. I also stress to everyone, never give up. Lifelong learning, and I cannot, you know, sort of is so important, support network and mentors. Okay, so my second lecture, I talked about it. So yeah, so anyway, in conclusion, my husband always says, success is the best form of revenge. Okay, I don't know why I keep thinking about revenge. Okay, not benefits, only your enemies, sorry if the typo, okay, only your enemies will benefit from your failures. Not benefits, only your enemies, sorry, okay. Never dwell on the past, And my husband said this, he wrote this and put it in every morning I read it. Everyone makes mistakes, right? The successful learn from it, the failures dwell on it. Why did I do? You've got to look forward to the next. Admit to your mistakes, at least to yourself. Don't tell everyone, you know, you made it. I mean, I don't care, I tell people, but at least to yourself, you have to admit. Otherwise, you're only fooling yourself. Even better, this is something I'm learning, right? So when I go on my sabbatical, I'm going to try and become a kinder, gentler person and not hold grudges. Okay? Don't hold grudges because it's only going to affect you. So I have a tendency, I don't forget things. You know, if somebody has done bad things to me, I will always remember. Okay? So I'm still working on improving myself. So hopefully when I come back, yeah. Oh, yeah. Gosh, yeah, now finally, because we want to see a better me when I get back. Okay. So don't let anyone dictate your life, but you have to compromise, right? Be passionate about your work, find a support network and a mentor, be a team player, but at the same time, excel as an individual. Okay, individuality is important. So that's the challenge, the dilemma we have. Play the long game as much as you can. Unfortunately for me, I was telling Feng, I can't play the long game. You know, when you are 68, almost 69, how much time do I have? Right, so that's really gets me upset. And I don't know what I mentioned this to Ovidu. Anyway, okay, but know that you cannot have it all. When some people say, oh, they have it all, no, you cannot have it all. But try to have the best of both worlds, personal and professional. There's always trade-offs and compromise because we are always playing games. Whenever there are two people, you play games. Okay. Okay, so it needs compromise. So that's this is something I wanted to share with you all. And Kusala was talking about this honor I had. So being one of the women that changed the 30+ women, changed the face of worldwide computing forever. So ACM came up with this, published this book 10 days ago. Today is what, 23rd? So yeah, about 10 days ago they published it. So that finishes, you take over now. Sorry, I went a little bit over.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
The gift.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we have this for people that are joined us. So I'm going to.
And then I'll be ready for the photos, right? To take later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're gonna do the photo for sure. Oops.
Sorry
And
about the hand cream.
oh no, don't worry about it. So let's see if this is gonna get open. Oh, I need me to sign in on something. Give me 1 second. I don't know why you're asking for that. So
What's your wife? I mentioned the pizza I talked about.
You guys have any questions?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you publish while you're in industry without like breaking all the stuff that makes you sign the whole thing?
No, I work with the clearance person. They were very supportive of me. That's why these people were very jealous of publishing. Because remember, you are not supposed to do that. But if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have come to you guys. So I went through a founder manager who was very supportive. I had to go through the process. Fortunately, I was in a sort of research sort of environment in Malta. I knew that kind of thing. So you have to get that permission from your department head, from the division director, and then go to the public release office. So I was constantly writing papers. And in a way, I think I was doing the work myself. Okay, so if you have a bad boss, it's fine. So try to find a situation where I found Henry Bayer, who was my boss, and he was very supportive. Yeah. I hope that answers the question.
yeah. While you're asking your question, please scan the code and participate in our survey. And then we have 3 prizes, I believe, that we're going to give to 3 winners. And make sure you're going to get an email with draft phone number as well. So, but you have your names in it, so it's going to be fine. We'll wait for a little bit. Anybody else have any question for Dr. Bhavani?
Yeah, yes.
The biggest difference between publishing your single author papers and your team author?
Okay, so when I was single author paper, because remember, I was federal research lab. I did have students, especially when I was in Boston. I was not, I went to prestige class some years at Boston University. But like University of Minnesota, I had close collaboration with the professor, quite excited, and students. So I had to, if I had to write papers, design, and then I did some implementation myself. So I would do the design and implementation and write the paper myself, and got it accepted in good journals. Okay, but some other papers I wrote it with the team. So we were on the AWACS project, the data mining project. So we will work with the team. So what's the difference? I don't know. I mean, as long as only one advantage is people won't question, is it your work or somebody else's work? Right? When you're a professor, you are supposed to be working with your students. Okay, so if I write a paper with Feng Chen, he contributed a lot, I contributed a little, and I'm admitting. Then so you can question, is it Feng's work or Bhavani's work? But I will say, I will be the first to admit that much of it was Feng's work, the paper we wrote. So, but then some people wonder, so Feng may not get as much credit as he deserves. You see, so if you're a single author, nobody can question. But they know it is your work. Right? So, but in academia, you're supposed to write papers with your students. Yeah.
You come up with like ideas for your single author.
Okay, so what I did was my project was on secure databases, relational data management. So I was already looking at object databases. I was looking at functional databases and looked at how we can incorporate security into those systems. And it was indirectly related to my work, but it was not directly related to my work. You see what I mean? I found something to complement what I was doing. I didn't go out of the way to find a new area. So it was in security, it was in data, and then I was writing these papers for new types of databases, information retrieval systems, IR systems, multimedia systems. I was not doing those projects at work. So I would read about it and do some implementation, and then, write these papers. Yeah, but if you're in academic situation, you don't have to, but in industry, if you have a good supervisor, you can do it. Like Control Data Corporation, it was not my first 2+ years, it was not the research environment. And they frowned upon PhDs and they didn't like when you did all this work. Okay, so I wrote highly theoretical, but PhD was a theory of computation. So I wrote theory papers and they didn't care. There was nothing competing with their work, so they approved it for me. So what about the reference? Yeah.
Oh, there's the question.
Yeah.
Since the malware and open source code styles are like constantly undergoing change,
Yes.
some of the like higher performing models today are becoming like increasingly expensive in terms of like computational cost. So how practical is it actually to use those kind of real-time updated ensembles to address constant modern?
If you are using your open source software in your work and it's continuously changing, then you have to come up with some new methods. You are assuming that the system that you are building is not infected with malware. See, the model itself. But yes, you're good point. The model itself could be attacked. Right? So you are developing an insecure model to detect malware, and that's where, so just like applying AI to have a problem and the AI system is attacked, you are developing a machine learning system, which is itself attacked, and then you're expecting it to attack the find malware. So that's going to be a problem. So you've got to solve the problem of attacks to machine learning systems, because otherwise you cannot use those systems for solving them. So which comes first? So it's a very good point. And that's why securing machine learning is going to be, and you do some work in that, right? Securing machine learning and securing AI systems is going to be a crucial aspect. Otherwise, forget about using AI systems. And so we have some experts here, right? Dr. Fenn and Dr. Zinda. Yes?
Professor, you talked about the integration, also the parts of the integration. I think the fairness.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is a good question. I don't think anyone has done that. Bringing all this together, Fenn is an expert on fairness. Zinda is looking at some of the security. Murat is looking at security. Is looking at applying this for security. Then we are also looking at the provenance, right? And so putting it all together is going to be about putting a fairness metric, sort of privacy metric, and then security metric. So you've got to put all these things together, and that's going to be a huge problem. So my suggestion is let's do one thing first, and then bring in fairness and privacy, and then bring privacy and security, and then look at it one by one to get together. We still haven't solved the real-time and security together. Okay, so there's no such thing as end-to-end security. Okay, those days we were dreaming about end-to-end security, but I don't think it's impossible. We cannot have it. So I say, let's do the best we can. Some people get annoyed with me when I talk, when I say that, because they are saying, then we don't want a false sense of security. Okay, so when I say let's do the best we can, so people get upset with that. Those days we were talking about throwing away everything and building a brand new operating system, brand new database. It's all done. Nobody's talking about it. But 20 years ago, that's what we wanted to do. Okay. So I still believe something is better than nothing. That's my opinion.
Yeah, in your earlier, I think, in your class, you have given us one multi-objective optimization or something.
Yes.
In the same.
Oh, a lot of dynamic program. Yeah, very good point. Forgot about it. It's we did some work on that dynamic programming problem, right? Sometimes you may need security, sometimes you may need privacy. So you have to look at the cost, the risks, and the utility of the data. What's the point in masking everything when the data is going to be useless? Okay, so that's something that we have to think about.
Really good. Thank you. Do you have a question? Anybody else have a question? Everybody participate in the surveys. I just want to make sure I have all the data here before we. Okay, we're going to start. Thank you so much again, Dr. Bhavani. I don't want to take more time. I've asked more questions. I know everybody have more questions, but it was very inspirational, especially the part that I really like is that basically be able to forget but not forgive, right? So we want to basically remember to learn from our own mistakes. So that's very important because everybody gonna make mistakes. So sorry, right? Forgive but not forget. Yes, you're right. Sorry, yeah. So we can learn from our mistakes. So that's perfectly. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm also working on it actually. So let's start to see if we can get our very first winner, if it is working. Yes, so we have our very first winner. Where are you? Thank you so much for joining us. And here you go. Thank you. Thank you. And then I'm gonna have so that's a. You can write all the important notes. So second one, Mary. Okay, awesome. Thanks for joining us. I think I don't know. If you'd rather long sleeve or short sleeve. So long sleeve. Okay, then. Thank you. Thank you. And finally, the last lucky winner, Kevin. Kevin Wang. Okay. Thank you again for and we had a really thankful for our presenter today. We will have to discuss how we're going to gift you at the end at some point. I don't have anything for you, but thank you so much everybody for you can have dinner. Yes, we're gonna have the photograph. So maybe maybe you can actually help us with that, and then you can also come to the picture. I'm also gonna stop. Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. We're thankful that he's here with us, and you too, and always supporting us. So